everyone, and welcome to the Grace Hour Show, a Christian program that takes a dive into our daily challenges and helps us learn our faith in a practical way. My name is Liz Robbins, and I'm joined by my husband and co-host, Roger Robbins, today in the studio.
Yes, thank you.
We have got a great topic, a little intimidating, we'll be honest, but all this week we are going to be looking at the incredible institution of marriage. And every day we'll be looking at it kind of from a different perspective. But as is often the case, we are the Monday slot. And so we are just kind of going to do our best to introduce this topic. We're going to look at what is a marriage. And we have titled today's episode, Exchanging a Lie for the Truth. And I mean, I feel like before we even dive in, we just got to give like the biggest disclaimer ever. Like, we are not marriage experts. We come to this with, I don't know, just
a little bit of experience.
A little bit. We're 17 years into marriage. We do not have a perfect marriage. We have been through some beautiful highs and some very intense lows, I think we could say. So we're just going to do our best to have a good time today.
Yeah.
Think about what a marriage is and what it isn't. I think that's kind of the angle we thought we would go at for this, and hopefully give you food for thought for those who are married, encouragement. For sure, there'll be some challenging things because what the Bible says about marriage is challenging to our beings. But hopefully, in general, an uplifting, encouraging, thought-provoking episode by the grace of God, right?
Yes. I mean, it is so beautiful to like talk about this, and also very humbling because for us, as we were coming into the studio, we were like kind of laughing.
Yeah.
And with the producer here, Sebastian, just saying like how crazy it is.
Yeah.
Marriage.
Yeah.
And when we titled this Exchanging a Lie for Truth, really, that's the way it was. I think for anyone who has thought about marriage as a single person, you know, they had their own concepts and their own ideas of it. And I even go back and think about like Adam, like when he was created and in the garden, then God created Eve. Like at first I can imagine, I mean, I suppose Adam was like, this is crazy. What are you doing? You know, God, why would you do this and ask me to like go and cleave to this woman, you know, like to be, you're saying that I'm one with her now. And what is this all about? Like, and God saw that it was good for Adam, that he wouldn't be alone. And so after getting married, we you know, and some years kind of passing, we look back on it and we go, wow, I was wrong to think of marriage this way.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, institution, and it's like, you know, the way the world spins it is that it's like, I've seen this very popular t-shirt that's like, it says marriage, and on the back of the t-shirt, it says game over. You know, like, I know it's very strong.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, for sure. There can be like so much negative news about marriage.
And that's like, this is the verdict, like that really like life is over, when really like, it's just the opposite. Yeah. Life will just begin. Yeah. And in a whole new way, what was a lie is now truth, meaning like, the reason why I was created was for this purpose. And so we see that in Genesis chapter 2. And then in Romans, we're drawing from this chapter 1 in Romans. The context is the people that are disobedient towards God, that are really, they know the truth, but they're going to suppress it and believe and hold on to and stand firm in that lie.
Yeah.
And
do you
God
want to read
says,
that verse?
Yeah, he says 3 times, and this is the phrase I want to hopefully bring up today in this talk about marriage, is that in verse 24, it says, God gave them up to their lusts of their hearts, And then verse 26, for this reason, God gave them up to dishonorable passions. And then in verse 28, since they did not see fit to acknowledge God, God gave them up to a debased mind.
Mm. And what about verse 25? That's where it says that
right.
we swapped it. We switched it and reversed it on this one. But
we did.
Verse 25 says, because they exchanged the truth about God for a lie and worshiped and served the creature rather than the creator who is blessed forever.
Yeah.
So we're looking at the alternative to that, which is rather than knowing the truth and exchanging it for a lie, we're looking at what it is to exchange the lie for the truth.
And the view of it is this is why we're talking about it earlier, like that it's kind of crazy, is that marriage isn't our idea.
Yeah.
This is not man's thing.
Marriage is not our idea.
It's not. And if we were to even suppose that it was our idea, what a lie that is, right?
Well, I think that's really important because there are a lot of ideas about marriage. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what we're referring to when we talk about lies. And just there's so many lies when it comes to what God's intent is. Like God has designed a true and good way for all things.
Yes.
And marriage is in that. And yet there are so many alternatives. What we're saying specifically, there are lies about marriage. And that's just important to recognize that if God is the one who designed us, creatures, and he created us for a certain purpose, and one of those is marriage, to come together and become one flesh. That means, like you said, it's his idea. And yet we have to acknowledge that within our minds and in our hearts, there are many ideas about who we are, what we want to do, what our purpose is, and who God is, and what marriage should be.
Yeah.
And we bring all of that into the wedding day.
Yeah.
It's very real.
Not even the wedding day. I mean, the whole idea of this podcast and the show today and this whole week's episodes is to generate thought for those who are single and those who are married, to get them to think about the way they view marriage in light of the one who invented it.
Yeah.
Right? God invented this, and it's his design. Or many say it's his institution, it's a divine institution, meaning that it has a function and a certain design in which it will bring forth life and it will bring forth fruit, right? It will bring forth peace and joy. Now, it doesn't mean that it's a promise for an only mountaintop experience life or lifestyle. It's about it's a picture of God being with man forever.
Yeah.
So we want to talk a little bit about that.
That's important.
In parallel with Jesus,
and
right?
I'm probably going to feel the need to add disclaimers at every 3 minutes to this episode because I'm just so aware of how broken we are. We all are. And I just don't want anyone who is listening to feel like we are speaking from a place where we have got it all figured out. And those with broken marriages, those struggling in their marriages, those who are divorced, and like you said, those who are single and maybe will never get married or don't know if they will. There's so much there, and we just want to recognize that again.
Yes.
And maybe we'll do it again later, but please hear, if you're listening, just hear us in that our heart is just to express God's heart for marriage. And oftentimes that's going to sound idealistic or unrealistic. And that's kind of the point. I mean, I wrote down here, we were talking about what marriage is and what it isn't. And one of the things that we said is marriage is impossible. What a mountain of a task.
It's a big ask.
It is a big ask to say this flawed and broken person and all their stuff, and this flawed and broken person. Now we're going to choose entrusted this bond of matrimony, this yoke, which we'll talk about, and forever until we die, until death do us part.
Yeah.
It's huge. And we just know that within that, there's so many ways that this can go sideways. We were saying that, like when we were talking about this can go sideways so many ways because of the two people, not to mention the exterior circumstances.
So what you just painted without God is a horrible idea. Okay. So it's like a really bad idea. Like you just
maybe don't, maybe we shouldn't, which a lot of, right. That's the conclusion of a lot of people in the world today is like, why would we go into this binding contract? What a terrible idea.
And that's what we're saying is that we are here to say, I admit that that's what I thought of marriage before I met Christ.
Yeah.
And so maybe just to go into a little biblical teaching before, can we do that?
Yeah,
I think it would be better that we get that like stirring.
Who would I be to be like, no, thanks. I don't, why we don't
let's
want
bypass the biblical teaching on this Christian podcast.
husband.
Thank you, submissive wife.
Let's do it.
Okay. So we're in a funny mood. Okay. So, Ephesians 5.
Ooh, you're going there.
Ephesians 5, because it's we're coming off of the week of Easter and all of its passion. And passion's kind of a word we're gonna like talk a little bit about, or romance.
Yeah.
But thinking about the passion of Christ, we can see his submission. Philippians chapter 2. He humbled himself and took on the form of a servant. He said, not my will, but the Father's will be done. And he prayed this prayer in John 17, that I have finished the work that you've given me, the work that you've asked me to do, and I've lost none. He goes to the cross, and it says in Ephesians chapter 5, he says, Paul says it this way as he describes what love is. He says, walk in love as Christ loved us and gave himself up for us. And that phrase is, I think, it's setting the stage. This chapter 5 of Ephesians is setting the stage for how we can understand marriage based upon the person of Christ. Christ is the one who will unlock the keys to our marriage and open the door to understanding what is the truth. Like Adam asking, why did you create Eve? Why did you give me someone else? I had all the work I wanted to do. I had all the pleasure I needed, seemingly. I had the freedom to run around and do what I please. And now you brought
old ball and chain.
You brought her into the picture and she deceived me, she
got her issues.
God sent his son, and his son was submissive, obeying the Father's will, and he gives up. And that word is to hand over by hand, just like Jesus did in the garden in Matthew chapter 27. And he surrenders to the world. He surrenders to the Jews. He surrenders to the Romans, and he gives up his body. He gives up his body to be broken and beaten and sacrificed. So he gives himself up for us. So that's the first part.
Yeah.
And it says that it's a fragrant offering and a sacrifice to God. Then as you go through the chapter, just quickly, it talks about the specific teaching of a husband and wife and the marriage. And what does it mean what is marriage? And it says the husband, it says in chapter 5, it says, husbands, love your wives as Christ has loved the church and gave himself for her. So it went from plural, like us, everyone, to understand marriage is to understand that we had a perfect groom marry an imperfect bride. And this crazy foreign love, what kind of love in 1 John 3:1? A foreign love, a love from out of this world, marries us, and we respond to it because he gave it up.
Yeah.
So now we have the example, we have the very framework in which we can experience something so out of this world.
Yeah.
Like we can take back a lie, right? Like Jesus, we thought it was a lie. Like, no, it's wrong for you to do this, to give yourself up,
Right.
to be a ransom for many, like it says in Mark 10, right? But he does it to show us what true marriage is. And he surrenders himself. And in doing so, he does it he delivers himself in a treacherous way. That's what the Greek word actually means.
Yeah.
Like even in betrayal, even to be taught, even to be molded and also misunderstood. So this love gives itself up. And then a husband who goes into this crazy contract, right? Like even as Christians, we get into marriage and we are like, we don't know everything.
Yeah.
But here we are, Paul helps us understand this. He says, just as Christ did it for you and for everyone, that revelation, as you can grasp it and understand it, use it, apply it to her.
So what I'm hearing you say, Pastor Roger, is that a husband is submissive. A husband is submissive to God. In this, and all as usual, like when Paul writes this, he is presenting the ideal.
Yes.
Recognizing, because he talks about all these things, recognizing that there is so much below the ideal in reality. But what he's presenting here is the ideal marriage, the look that this is what God intended and what he modeled through Christ.
Right.
Is a husband who is submissive to God.
Yes, because not submissive to himself, because it says in this chapter that like you love her more than you love yourself.
Yeah.
Your own body.
Yeah.
So I would therefore have to be submissive to something else.
Yeah.
I would have to, like, as Jesus says, lose something in order to gain it. And like you gave that description of like, sorry.
No.
You go.
Well, I was just going to say, again, now from the wife's perspective, we have the verse 22 that says, wives, submit to your own husbands as to the Lord. And again, this is like that a wife is to be submissive unto God. And in that, she submits to this husband who is submissive to God. This is the ideal. We know in reality, we're all types of ways.
Disclaimer. Here, are we at the disclaimer part again? We don't always do this. God
we
forgive
don't.
us.
And it's, we were talking about marriage and like, okay, so marriage is a big ask. It is so risky. This is so beautiful though.
Yes.
Because relationships, just step back from marriage and look at relationships. I remember that famous quote from C.S. Lewis that like, to love is to be vulnerable. Like it's a risk. Love is a risk because you are giving of yourself freely. If you're not giving of yourself freely, it's not love. But to give freely, what a risk, what a gamble. Because are they going to give of themselves freely today? Right. Every day.
And like in marriage, God is not asking us to do something that he hasn't first done himself, right?
Yeah.
He's done it himself. He has shown us how to do it.
Yeah.
So like, we got hope. Like there is like this real, tangible, very logical and very personal way in which we can all do it. And when you ask someone who's like, let's just say been married 20 years and has some kids and you ask them in their Christian walk, their faith, their marriage, what are the things that they would say, in reflection to what they've learned, because, and I actually asked some like pastors and different people, I texted some people and I asked them what they thought of it. And one pastor from our church in Calcutta I said, give me one word sentence, like what is marriage? He says it is honorable. It's honorable.
Yeah. Well, I love the word honor. I can't remember what episode it was that we broke down that word honor, but one of my favorite mandates to Christians, we have many mandates given to us, in the Bible, but one of my favorites is Romans 12:10, where it says that we should outdo one another in showing honor.
Yes.
And the word honor, like the definition that goes with the word honor is to recognize the fixed value of a person and treat them accordingly.
Yes.
Meaning, for me to honor you is to first recognize your fixed value, meaning the value given to you by God. It is not one that I determine, and it is not one that you earn in our relationship. Like, you have a value, it's fixed. And then I would treat you according to that value.
Yes.
So if you are seeking to outdo me in showing honor to me,
yes,
and I am seeking to outdo you in showing honor to you,
what's that going to look like?
We've got ourselves an incredible competition.
Yes.
For those who are
one
competitive.
of the best kind.
Like, this is the best competition. I'm a very competitive person. I don't do game nights because I'm too competitive for game nights.
Wow.
They're not fun for me. Nobody enjoys me on game night, okay? But by the grace of God, this is a competition
yes,
that we can like all embrace. And it speaks to this. I asked my mom, I said, what's marriage? And she's not a big talker. She just goes, well, I'll tell you what it's not. It's not 50-50. And then she cutting the broccoli. And I was like, whoa, and I've heard that before from both my parents, because I think when people get married, they can often think marriage is a mutually beneficial relationship. It's good for me. It's good for you. You give to me, I give to you. Sure. Like, that is the ideal. That's what we're talking about, honoring each other. But when you look at the day to day, the life of a marriage, it could, 70 years, people have been married, 70 years, incredible. In 70 years, there are days where it is not mutually beneficial.
No.
When either I don't have something to offer you and you've still got to show up and love me, or you've got nothing to offer me and I've still got to show up and love you, whatever that looks like.
Right.
So that's what this saying is not 50-50 means, that it's not formulaic. Like, marriage cannot be a numbers game.
Right. You scratch my back, I scratch yours.
Ultimately, it does need to be a give and take of love, of course. Like, that's not what we're saying here, right?
Well, and that's the exchange of the lie, right? Because maybe operationally, we live that way.
Yeah, like if I'm going to say, I'm not going to lay down my life completely today unless you're going to lay down your life completely today.
Or
we've got ourselves a conditional situation.
Yeah, or you've kept track of all the times you've laid down. And like how many times
I'm at
you
72 and you're at like 61. So like it's I'm gonna hold off on laying down my life.
Well,
okay, I feel a need for a disclaimer again.
Okay, go for it.
When we talk about giving and taking and this idea that it's not 50-50 and that there's going to be times when you don't have anything to offer me and I'm giving to you, okay? I just want to be very clear. We're not talking about relationships that we're not condoning marriages that are one-sided or, God forbid, like that are abusive, whether it's, verbally or physically or sexually. So not to just get real serious, but again, like, please understand what we mean here. I'm not talking about that it's acceptable to have a person who's a doormat and the other person is just abusing,
walking all over
them in whatever way. That's not what we're saying.
Yes.
We're talking about within a marriage where two people are dedicated.
We're talking
to
about
loving each other.
One is in a place of suffering, a place of a trial.
Yeah.
A place
weakness.
of failure, even failure.
Yeah.
And we would apply this teaching, biblical teaching, that Christ, with the love that is foreign, like this unrecognizable agape, not counting love, not keeping score, not keeping track, is coming onto the scene of our lives, right?
Yeah.
And as he did with us, we use this same love and we apply it in this scenario where it's 90-10. Like, right? Like, let's just say it's 90-10 right now. And it's been 90-10 for some weeks. It's been 90-10 for some weeks. And I am just at my wit's end. And what do? You know, like what happens?
That's very real.
Really, that is marriage, actually, maybe not to give it the numbers, you know, but the 90-10 times in which we seemingly think it's so unfair. This yoke that I'm yoked up to, I want to go. Like, this is not a good deal, right? Like all the natural feelings and emotions are like kicking off and telling me to break the yoke, break the bonds and the promise, and go my own way. It's in that moment and it's in that time that we recognize. I really think we have to recognize and seek the Lord that He would show us how He gave Himself up for us. You know, and in that same way, that can empower us in that 10% where we're not getting anything to, you know, like we talked about being yoked up and what is unequally yoked. Remember?
Well, it's cool because we hear that a lot in Christian circles, like to not be unequally yoked. But I never looked up the word unequally yoked. And this is from 2 Corinthians 6:14. And this is referring to this whole, the context of 2 Corinthians 6 is about sexual immorality. And so it is very directly linked to what we're referring to here with marriage. And it says that we should not be unequally yoked. And when I looked it up, unequally yoked is 2 words in English, but in the Greek, it's 1 word. So, and it's a compound word, and it's heterozugeo. Not saying it right, but it sounds to me, because I'm a scientist, that sounds very scientific. We have like the zygote. Anyway, whatever. Let's move on from that.
Don't drop those words.
But heterozugeo. So when we hear the word hetero, we know that we are heterosexual. We are male and female and together. But when we say unequally yoked, what it really means is like 2 different things connected.
Yeah, coming together.
It's like discordant is the word it uses, or 2 different kinds. And when this is an analogy of like cattle, it would be like if an ox was yoked up with a horse. They're different. And this is really cool because like male and female, we are unique and we are different from each other. But as believers, there is this commonality. We are the same. We are 2 of the same kind that are yoked up together. And that this teaching is the warning against the foolishness of wanting to be connected, meaning now our lives are joined and we're doing life together. We're plowing the field together. We're doing this work together, whatever it would be, with someone who's not of the same kind as us. And it's a beautiful thing to think about that when you become married, you're yoked to each other. And this idea of, like you said, the 90-10, like when I make a decision, it's our decision.
Yes.
And when you make a decision, it's our decision because we are this kind of like new thing when we come together.
So this is like, this thought's really profound because it's as much as we would think of it as like an oxen with like a zebra.
Right. Like men are from Mars, women are from Venus.
Right. Like
We're
let's
so
just
different.
think of ourselves that way, which is a lie. I mean, it can be true in the sense that if one doesn't possess Christ and the other one does.
This is we are of the same spirit.
But we cannot like think of it as when 2 Christians come together and are yoked up together that we're different. Actually, we are more similar. And more exact. And more compatible than anything else on the planet, which means that we can overcome and we can experience like incredible depths of God and His love when it's 90-10. Do you know what I mean? Like in that horribly
even when it seems unbalanced
principle.
That's cool.
You know what I mean? That seemingly what I thought was like this zebra and elephant, it's not actually. We are together because...
Wait, who's the elephant in this analogy?
Whoa. I cannot believe I used that other...
You went to elephant. We were talking ox and horse.
I was totally thinking
you can't be throwing elephants out there in the marriage
man, you
game.
Nailed me on the podcast.
I'm not going to forget that.
Okay. This beautiful
I'd be
I'm like thinking
I'm
about
like
all
Black
the animals.
Beauty.
Which animal should I use right now? Be careful which animal you just
watch
say.
yourself. Oh man.
Oh, man.
Okay, I'm sorry.
However,
Continue teaching.
Isn't that great? Like that
Yeah.
this principle of being yoked up together.
We are similar. Like I think that's beautiful.
And to recognize it's God's plan. It's God's design.
Yeah.
It's God's institution. This wasn't seemingly a good idea, God. But now that I'm in it, now that Christ in me and Christ in her, we somehow, we're experiencing something that we wouldn't normally experience in our own like version of, Romans chapter 1 is your own version of your own lusts and your own passions and your own desires. Yeah. And God says, if that's what you want to do, I will give you up to that. Yeah. You can go that way. You can be unequally yoked. Yeah. Right? Like you can be with this elephant.
Well, and this is nice. Well played. No, but I think it's important to recognize that marriage is so under attack, and it always has been. And it's important for us, whether you've been married for 20 years or you're about to get married or you're newlyweds, there's so much within our own minds that has been believed as truth about marriage and about ourselves, like you were saying, just about who we are as creatures made by a creator who has a design for us that's not our design.
Yes.
Like we don't get to choose that if we want to be fulfilled. And people want to be fulfilled. Everyone wants to be happy. And that's why we're all watching these stupid romantic comedies that are, we just can't get enough.
So let's talk about this.
Yeah.
Okay. Because this might be a little not edgy or like that we're on the attack. Yeah. We're not against romance. Okay. So that's the word we want to talk about. Romance.
Yeah. Romance and passion. Yeah. Right? That's what everyone wants.
But we could suppose that the word romance, based upon what you just said, and the maybe like cultural infatuation, and it's propping up and kind of inflating the word to be kind of like all encompassing, all satisfying, all fulfilling, all of my needs and all of my wants and desires in one word. It's him, it's her. Yeah. It's this moment in time, right?
Yeah, this feeling.
So that spirit, we could say, and that word and its inflated, shadow has really deceived us. Yeah. And we'll all like raise our hands and be like, yeah, I've been duped.
Well, and go ahead.
In its worldly, passionate context, okay?
Yeah.
Comparing it with the passion of Christ, with a divine romance as, what's his name?
Phil Wickham.
Phil Wickham. You ever want to listen to an amazing song, Divine Romance by Phil Wickham? Wow, that's a good plug for him. He doesn't need a plug.
He really doesn't.
He's like,
he's just fine.
But Divine Romance versus like this one that has been construed and twisted. And what does it do?
Yeah.
What does it do?
Well, when as a woman, we have this messaging coming at us that romance is this beautiful goal that we want to have romance in our lives, because ultimately what we're really saying is behind the romance is we want to be loved. We want to be known, right? Because romance involves like this thoughtfulness, like the idea of a guy like knowing exactly what I would want and giving me exactly that, like a picnic with the thing that I love the most.
And all the candles.
All the things, the candles, like it's this like that I'm being thought of, like above all else, above everybody else, that I'm being thought of and considered. And the work that takes, the thoughtfulness, the action, all of that to make me feel loved is wonderful. Right? I mean, please, let's, crank up the romance, babe. Let's do it,
Turn it up a notch. Level up.
But where it gets twisted is when I would seek romance more than, and this we're talking about within the context of
a Christian marriage,
that I would seek romance over faithfulness. Like I was thinking about it, that one of the incredible truths of marriage and all of life is that we're meant to glorify God. in whatever he gives us to do, we're doing it unto the Lord and to his glory and to his name. So when I choose to get married to a person and I make those vows before God and man, there is in that this incredible opportunity that I'm saying, now I'm going to do this thing, marriage, to glorify God. So I had written down that God is not glorified in romance. And then I thought about it and go, okay, people aren't going to like that because there's nothing wrong with romance. But what I'm saying is that God isn't glorified in a fairy tale.
Yes.
A fairy tale where you're perfect and I'm perfect and we're happy all the time and I feel in love and passionate and romantic all the time.
Right.
Why is God not glorified in that? Because God is glorified when grace is needed. Because God is gracious. God is glorified when mercy is needed because he's merciful. God is glorified
when forgiveness is needed.
Yeah, because he's forgiving. He's glorified when faithfulness is needed. And when I talk about marriage and what I love the most about you is it's not the romance, it's the faithfulness. Because God is faithful to his own hurt. Christ was faithful. He is faithful to us. To his own hurt. Yes. And when you are faithful to me, to your own hurt, that is romance. Like what is more passionate than that?
Yes. And that goes back to the Ephesians 5 principle.
Yeah.
That in chapter 5, verse 2, he gave himself up for us. That's the divine romance. Yeah. That's like this unbelievably crazy foreign type of love. Alien love, it says. Like that's the understanding of the Greek words. Like no one could comprehend. It's out of this world love that transforms and like really does like an explosion, so to speak. You know, like the one that you want in romance, you know, like the one that's like this climactic thing. Yeah. That's like this buildup. Like the one that Jesus did, the one that Jesus showed and displayed on the cross is like nothing to be compared to. Like it's so awesome and so wonderful that we have that example and then we can like put it into action and watch our own romance. That's what you're saying. Take place. Our own romance in marriage through obedience, through faithfulness, through acts of kindness and service. You know what I mean? Like,
and I mean, that's the thing is like, if, you know, planning a romantic picnic or date or whatever. I don't know why I keep saying picnic. Don't take me on a picnic. I really would. That wouldn't do it for me. I'll be honest with you.
I actually saw a couple yesterday when I was coming back on my bike on Lake Montebello on the hill. And this dude was just holding her hand, just laser focused on her, on it with a blanket. And I was like,
that's what we want.
I need to pick up my game.
We want that laser
like,
focus.
I can't. That quality time.
QT.
Anyway.
QT. But I think that as a young woman and a young wife, it can be very easy to have romance, right? And that's everyone's like, oh, young love, puppy love. And then people get like cynical and they're like, but once you've been married for a long
it's
time,
get cold.
Well, or not even that, but like our idea of romance is when he does the dishes and it's like, oh, you know, be still my heart, you know, and we're like laughing and we're laughing about like, you just wait, young people. Like that's what's really going to do it for you.
Yeah. Like changing those diapers.
But like that, I mean, I don't know what to tell you guys, but like it's true. Like, because that is an act of love. It can be, you know, like if you know if you see what I need and you decide, even if it's an inconvenience to you, to do that, it doesn't have to be red roses.
Yes.
It's still romantic.
And to go back to the point of Christ in his life. Yeah. It doesn't look pretty. Yeah. Right? It's not beautiful. Like in the way we would want to view it. This is not beautiful. All this blood. You know what I mean? Like all these bruises, all this, you know, conspiring against him, trying to kill him and all the going against the truth and trying to like cover up the light. Yeah. So if that's the way we go, right? If that's the way we understand it, like let's go the God way, let's go the Christ way in our marriage. How romantic could it be? Like sky's the limit, right? Like to the moon and back. I mean, we can go so far. And I think, I mean, personally, I have gleaned a lot, like, and for everyone just listening, I would encourage you, find other couples, Christian couples that have been married and married a while, and spend time with them.
Yeah, the ones who aren't afraid to talk about the real stuff.
Right, because I've learned so much from them in those discussions, in those times of prayer with them, or just coming over. And I think the same for us, like for the younger married couples in churches and in places of leadership, or like you're kind of like in your 40s, 30s, like open up your door to the next generation, to those who are like dating, who are seeking counsel in a relationship. Open up your doors, bring them over, let them come into your life and show them what the romance is like. I remember being in Turkey. I've said this maybe a couple of times on the show.
When we were newlyweds?
No. Well, maybe when we were newlyweds and after. But like I remember like when we would have couples over or dinner dates and bring saved and unsaved people into our home in Turkey. After dinner, I would just like immediately start clearing the table and doing the dishes. Now I am wired that way, but I also know it was a huge help. As Liz cooked the food, I would clean those dishes. Like that was kind of like the idea. And I loved it. And I thought nothing of it. There was nothing, no limelight looking for. But as I was doing it, I realized many times afterwards, people would say to you and to me, like, what are you doing? Like, because to them, they were like, why would you wash the dishes? It's her job. And I'm like, no, this is a sign of love. And this is my way of saying it. And yes, the language of love can be done in different ways. Yeah. But it's not always the most beautiful way, pretty way. And for them, it translated, it helped them understand like what it is and what it isn't. Yeah. And, to some, that can be very passionate and that can be very meaningful, romantic even, because look, we have a lie that's out there that says, if you get into marriage, you're going to lose your life, right? That's like really what it comes down to. Like you ask a young person on the street, what is marriage? Man, that's like hours, days, years, money, time spent, lost. That sums it up, right? And we would tell them, based upon the fact that this is not from man and it is from God. Yeah. If you were to understand who Christ is, you would discover that that's a lie. And that marriage, on the other side of marriage, is a freedom you don't even know. Is a freedom you've never tasted. Yeah. You know what I mean? Not to prop up marriage, like if you're not married, you're not tasting this freedom. But I'm saying in the context of having Christ.
If you're not submitted to God, you're not free.
Then
boom.
Yes. And
that's huge.
I remember we went on an anniversary date one time, and I remember talking to a guy at the door. I was just telling him he was like helping me at the door. Held the door open, remember? And then like you went to get the car or whatever. But I said, it's my anniversary. He's like, it's your anniversary? How long have you been here? I was like, I don't know, some years, 15 years. And he goes, marriage, that's like, that's crazy. And I said, well, maybe you don't know who invented it. And he was like, what do you mean? Like it's from us. I'm like, no, it's not. God invented this. Yeah. And it hit him so hard that he's like, wait a minute. Is there something I'm missing? Yeah. Is there a lie that I'm currently in that I don't know the truth about? Yeah. And ultimately, that is Christ trying to get to us. And he uses marriage, what seems to be like crazy train wreck mess, like coming together to be a type of beauty.
Well, I think it's incredible that, like you said, there's some people who never get married, but there is, no matter what, we are all designed to submit to our Creator. Going back to this Romans 1, the exchanging of the lie for truth is a moment when we say that I am a creature and you are my Creator, and I look to you for what I should do with my life, what I should spend my days doing, what I should spend my energy on, what I should aim my heart at.
Yeah.
And marriage is one of those beautiful ways that God has designed that we would glorify him. And I think that when we talk about this idea of being yoked up, I thought about the verse in 2 Corinthians 5:14, where it says that the love of God constrains us, or the ESV says the love of God controls us or compels us. And again, that word, it's connected to this idea of the yoke, because it's like to be pressed in on every side so that you only have one way to go. It's like to be held together, like to be compressed. It's like when you choose to yoke up with somebody in God's design, you're choosing to go with them. You're now like a new person. It says you become one flesh. And again, this idea of honor comes in. There is a acknowledgement of the value that God has put on this union. That's now this new person, this one flesh. And every day after that, we are choosing to acknowledge the value of that union and to act accordingly, according to what God has said. And every day is not going to be the same. One day it's going to be, I've got nothing to give, and you have the opportunity to glorify God in that and to be gracious towards me. And there's going to be other times when you need my forgiveness, and I'll have an opportunity to glorify God in that giving of grace and forgiveness. But it's always about glorifying God.
Yes.
And there's freedom in that, submitting to this design. There's freedom.
Yes. And I would say, and lastly, like there's a fragrance. There's like like this, to go back one more time to the Ephesians 5 principle, like when we give up, the idea also is like, it's like fruit. When it's not ripe, it's not allowing you to taste what it really is. So I've picked an olive off a tree. I tried to crack open an almond when it's not ripe. It's disgusting. It is horribly disgusting. It's so bitter.
Yeah.
But the idea behind that word giving up is that you would also, like as fruit allows itself to be ripe, it chooses and it gives itself up. Like it comes into that place where it's going to taste sweet. And when one and then the other, those that are yoked, give themselves up and become like this, like ripe fruit, like it tastes great.
Yeah.
And it's not bitter. You know what I mean? And everything that is bitter is because it hasn't surrendered. It hasn't given up. And, like I had an amazing conversation yesterday with one of my subcontractors in my company. And he just told me, he's like, I'm just started going to church. And I talked to him about the Lord and like putting his trust in the Lord. But then he said, my wife doesn't want to come to church. And I told him, I said, it's okay. It's a work in progress. But just know this, that like you putting your trust in Christ and you surrendering your life will be the best thing for her in your marriage, even though she doesn't want to come.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, like, imagine him becoming this amazing, tender fruit that which she could even taste and be like, wow,
taste
look
and see.
Look how different he is now. I want to be like that. And that's because he followed after Christ and he gave up his life just as Christ did for us.
Wow.
So
That's
this
beautiful.
is amazing. Pastor Johan from France said, marriage is beauty, sanctification, and fellowship. And I asked Pastor Risto and a couple other pastors, they just text me back.
That's Finland.
In Finland, growing together in grace in the most intimate human relationship. So those were some of the comments. Thank you so much for them. And this is a great way to start the week.
Yeah.
After Easter.
Good luck to everybody doing the episodes after us. We are so honored actually to be able to talk about this holy and incredible thing that is marriage. So I hope everybody enjoyed this. We had a good time. But tune in. Thanks for joining us. Tune in all this week as we continue to talk about the biblical view of marriage. And don't forget to subscribe wherever you watch or listen, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and share this with someone if you think they'd like it. Thanks.